All right. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 29th, 2026 meeting of the City of Worcester Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Jordan Burke Powers and I will chair tonight's meeting. This meeting of the Worcester Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted in a hybrid manner with both in-person and remote participation. As a preliminary matter to tonight's meeting, I would like to confirm the board members and staff who are present. Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Board member Abramoff.
Here online.
Board member Moremi.
Here online.
Board member Torcono.
Here.
Board member Barnhagen.
Here.
I believe board member Sacco is not here. Is that correct? Okay, and board member Cortez is coming. Before we start, a few housekeeping notes. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed from the City of Worcester website and the recording will be available for rebroadcast. This is a public meeting, which means both that it is being recorded and that minutes will be taken and published at a later date. The public may participate remotely by calling 1-669-254-5252. Again, that number is 1-669-254-5252. With the access code 160-456-4634. Again, that access code is 160-456-4634, or using the link shown on the screen. Once an item is called, there will be a brief presentation of the item, followed by any additional comments and clarifications from members of the city staff, and then an opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on that item before we proceed to board discussion and action. To manage remote participation during our hybrid meetings and prevent disruptions, all participants are automatically blocked from unmuting themselves, turning on their video, or sending chat messages. For remote participants who would like to comment on an item on our agenda, we ask that you use the raise your hand function in Zoom, raise your hand feature in Zoom during the discussion of that item. If you are joined by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Again, if you are joined by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Staff will then call on members of the public one at a time and give them permission to unmute themselves. If you are joined by phone, you will then be able to unmute yourself by pressing *6. Again, to unmute yourself, you press *6. Please note the board appreciates brevity in your comments. To help with the process, we ask all speakers participating in person to use a microphone to please clearly identify yourselves each time you speak. The first time you speak, please state your city of town of residence for the record. To help maintain an orderly meeting, please address all comments and questions through the chair rather than directly to any of the other speakers or applicants. Applicants should be aware that approvals are generally conditional. Decisions are typically signed by the board at the next meeting and filed with the city clerk the following day, beginning the appeal period. It is the applicant's responsibility to address any conditions of approval, and lack of doing so may result in delays or enforcement. Please contact the Planning Division with any questions. Any party aggrieved by a decision of the board has the right of appeal under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 17. There are a number of items on our agenda being continued or postponed tonight, which I will read through shortly. If you are here on one of those items, please note that no additional notice will be sent to you before the next meeting. The best thing to do is to call the Planning Division the day prior to our next meeting to confirm if the item will be heard or postponed that night, as it is not uncommon for items to be postponed multiple times before they are heard by this board. I will suggest, for the purposes of streamlining our meeting, that board member Abramoff or Barnhagen offer to make any motions, and that board member Cortez second any such motions. In the event that either member prefers not to do so, I simply ask that you identify another member to do so. And noting that board member Cortez is not quite here yet, I will ask for some support on making sure that we have a second, at least for the initial parts to this meeting. So we have we're going to start off with continuances and then postponements. We have two continuances. Item number 149 Plantation Street is a special permit. There is a request to continue to the July 20th, 2026, and extend the constructive deadline to August 11th, 2026. And item number 4, 0 Grafton Street, there's a request to continue to July 20th, 2026, and extend the constructive grant deadline to August 11th, 2026. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to continue 149 Plantation Street and 0 Grafton Street to the dates as stated by the chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion, Board Member Abramov?
My vote is yes.
Board Member Moremi?
Yes.
Board Member Torcono?
Yes.
Board Member Barnhagen?
Yes.
And my vote's yes. So if you're here for 149 Plantation Street or 0 Grafton Street, know that we have continued that, and you should talk to the planning board if you have any questions. And for those online, you can also contact the planning, sorry, not the planning board, the City of Worcester Planning. You can also do so by the information that's on the web, on the stream. Okay, we have 3 postponements. Item number 6, item number 7, and item number 10. Item number 6 is 256 Sunderland Road. It's a special permit and variance. Item number 7 is 1 Jackson Street, which is a variance. And item number 10, 23 through 37 Boylston Street is a variance. There's a request to postpone to July 20th, 2026, and extend the constructive grant deadline to August 11th, 2026. Is there a motion on those postponements?
I'd like to make a motion to postpone 256 Sunderland Road, 1 Jackson Street, and 23-37 Boylston Street to the dates as stated by the chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
On the motion, Board Member Abramov,
My vote is yes.
Board Member Moremi,
Yes.
Board Member Torcono,
Yes.
Board Member Barthagen,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. So if you're here on 256 Sunderland Road, 1 Jackson Street, 2327 Boylston Street, those have been postponed, and you should talk to the planning division if you would like to know when that might be heard. Okay, I think I successfully vamped enough to make sure you're here for the actual opening. Excellent, excellent. All right, Board Member Cortez is here. So we are going to skip to item number 9, 1315 Blythewood Avenue. If the applicant could please come forward and state your name and city of town of residence for the record.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Donald O'Neill. I'm a lawyer here in Worcester, here this evening on behalf of Jason Lessard in connection with this property at 1315 Blythewood Ave. This was originally one parcel that was subdivided without zoning relief, but basically to create an additional house lot. At the time that they did that, the owner was under the impression that they could continue to access the 2 properties through the existing driveway. And later, it was determined that would not be allowed, or in this case would require a special permit for basically for the driveway setback provisions, which is kind of hard to comply with if you have a common driveway. But we are proposing basically the shaded area would be the common driveway, which would provide access to both properties. And we are showing the required parking within the shaded area and with the small portion in front of the garage to the rear. There is an alternative which would require a driveway from Blythewood Terrace, which is on the left across the back of the property. But there's a garage in the way, and it would also sort of be a lot of extra pavement for no good reason. The driveway as set up now is adequate for both properties, so they're looking for approval of that arrangement. I have looked at staff's recommendations on page 4 I have no objection to those. There are also 3 waivers that are listed. I would request those. The other item that's on there as well is there's a shed on 15 Blythewood. To the rear of the property, there is a photograph, and it's too close to the property line. There is a photo in the, it's reproduced in the staff memo, and we had actually supplied it, but the shed that's shown on the left is, it's a neighbor's shed, not the shed on this lot. I do have another photo of the shed. The blue shed is the shed that we're seeking relief for. And if you look at the shed, they were operating on the assumption that the fence was the property line, because that's actually set back. I'm not sure what it's set back, but it's, you know, it's not right on the fence. And in this case, there is also a fence on the property line. So if you're on the other side of the fence, you can't really see, you know, where the placement is. It's a temporary shed. It's on blocks. You know, it's not a permanent structure. And we were coming here for the relief on the driveway. And if you look at the way the backyard is set up, it's in a good position in the yard, given that the yard goes up to the fence, and you know, in terms of what they were using. So we would ask for approval on that setback as well. And that's it. If you have any additional questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, and just for, since folks can't see online, I don't think we got this in time because I didn't see it. So just for the board members online, there's a blue shed that's on a temporary, that may in fact be 5 feet from the fence. It's a little close, it's hard to say, but at the very least, what they're requesting is, so the picture that was provided to us is not actually the correct shed. And the correct shed is close, but at the very least, the relief is seemingly not as much as you would expect. It's not as the picture shows. There's actually a good distance between the fence line and the shed that's also clearly very it's nice, but temporary. Is that accurate?
Right. And the other, I believe the shed that's shown is actually, I believe that's a neighbor that actually we are
Yes.
Closest to, so I don't think they're complaining.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. City staff.
Through the chair, this is Amy Beth Lathe for the Planning Division. So this is 1315 Blythewood Ave that is located in an RS7 zoning district. Presently on the premises at 13 Blythewood Avenue is a 2-family dwelling and a detached garage, and at 15 Blythewood Avenue is a single-family dwelling and an accessory shed. The applicant is seeking retroactive relief to create a common driveway between the 2 lots and for the location of the shed at 15 Blythewood Avenue. The specific relief is on 13 Blythewood Avenue is a special permit to modify the parking and dimensional layout and/or landscaping requirements, loading requirements, and/or the number of required parking spaces for the landscape buffer requirements, as a residential driveway is required to be set back 3 feet from the property line. The proposed common driveway crosses, and there's 0 setback between the properties. The exact same special permit is requested for the 15 Blythewood Avenue property for the exact same reason. There is no setback for the landscape buffer, and also for the variance for the shed. Per the applicant's survey, the relief shown is 3.5 feet from the 5-foot minimum setback requirement for an accessory structure, as the shed is shown to be 1.5 feet from the property line. Staff comments were addressed by Mr. O'Neill, as the alternate location for the driveway was off of Blythewood Terrace to plan left. And that's what was submitted to Inspectional Services originally. And so this is why we're here, because when the applicant was going for their certificate of occupancy. It was found that the driveway was not constructed per the submitted plans, so here we all are. There are conditions of approval, and as Mr. O'Neill said, he has no objections, so I have nothing further, but can answer any questions if needed.
Is anyone here from the public for 1315 Blythe Avenue? Okay, come on up, just state your name, city. Do you want to say something? You raise your hand.
Oh.
You don't have to say anything.
He's the owner.
He's the owner, yeah. You don't, maybe re-say this. Is there anybody who'd like to comment on 1315 Blythe Avenue? We have no desire, we don't need you to talk if you don't need to. Is anybody online?
To raise your hand, I believe it is *6.
To raise your hand. To raise your hand is *9.
*9, thank you.
Raise your hand is *9. Do you want to say? Nope. You absolutely can. You just have to come forward, state your name, city of tenant. Okay.
No, I get no one online.
All right. I don't see anyone, so we'll just get started with board comment. Generally speaking, we don't like when people make mistakes and then come before us. We'd rather it just be corrected, do it as per what you told the city you're going to do. You should just do it that way. So that being said, this is pretty straightforward. I think it's fine. I was out there, and it looked fine. I would rather keep it the way it is than do anything to the property as is, and the shed is obviously fine. So I don't have anything else. I think this is straightforward. I'm happy to vote yes. Board Member Abramoff.
I agree with you. No other comments.
Board Member Cortez.
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we went through these project proposals, and as presented at this time, I have no problems with it. I agree, straightforward, good planning, so let's move forward. I'm for it.
Thank you.
Board Member Moremi.
No comment.
Board Member Torcono.
No comment.
Board Member Bardhagen.
Yeah, no additional comments.
Okay. With that, this is in our normal business, so we'll have the 5 regular folks make the votes, but I will take a motion on to close 1315 Blythewood Avenue.
I'd like to make a motion to close on 1315 Blythewood Avenue.
Someone needs to make it.
So move.
Is there a second? Because you can't vote. Somebody needs to
Second.
make a, no. Can Board Member Abramoff, can you make a second?
Second.
All right, on the motion, Board Member Abramoff.
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Moremi?
Yes.
Board Member Torcono?
Yes.
And my vote's yes. Is there a motion on 1315 Blythewood Avenue?
I'd like to make a motion for 1315 Blythewood Ave for approval of a special permit for 13 Blythewood Avenue to modify the parking dimensional layout and/or landscaping requirements, loading requirements, and/or the number of required parking spaces. Approval of a variance for 15 Blythewood Avenue for relief of 3.5 feet from the 5-foot minimum setback requirement for an accessory structure, and for 15 Blythewood Avenue approval of a special permit to modify the parking dimensional layout and/or landscaping requirements, loading requirements, and/or the number of required parking spaces, subject to the conditions on page 4 of 5 of the staff memo and the waivers as requested by the applicant.
Can somebody make that motion as stated?
Second.
Or can you
So
second?
moved.
Thank you. On the motion to approve for 13 and 15 special permits and variances, Board Member Abramoff,
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez,
Yes.
Board Member Moremi,
Yes.
Board Member Torcono.
Yes.
My vote's yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is regular order number 2. Can you just give that to Amy? Yes, thank you very much. Item number 2, 318 Park Avenue. And just for clarification, Board Member Moremi, you cannot vote on this item, but we would, of course, always take your input if you have any, so please do feel free to speak up. But Board Member Barnhagen will be voting on this one.
Yeah, through the chair, this is because Board Member Abramoff is recused.
Oh, Board Member Abramoff is recusing. Excuse me, that's right, Board Member Moremi was here.
No
That's my
problem.
fault. That is my fault. Thank you, Board Member Barnhagen. Board Member Abramoff is recusing. Board Member Remy, you are voting. I apologize, and we need your vote. I apologize. That was my mistake.
Got it. No problem.
Is the applicant here for 318 Park Avenue?
Good evening. My name is Sean McGlone with Serato Signs. All right, we're looking to install a new sign cabinet on an existing pole that's non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming. The total sign square footage is 44 square feet, and they're allowed, I believe they're allowed 96 square feet. We're looking for relief on the total height. Total height of the new sign with the pole will be 21, a little over 21 feet, and they're allowed 20 feet. And then also the setback of the sign, setback needs to be 5 feet, and the current setback of the pole is 0.4 feet.
Okay, can you just tell us a little bit about some of the changes you made? I think you said that just right now, but can you say again, just a little bit, in plainer language, some of the changes we asked you to make from the last meeting?
Yeah, so from the last meeting, we proposed a 73 and a half square foot sign, and we downsized it a little bit larger than the original sign for BT's and D'Angelo's. So now it's at 44, a little over 44 square feet. So the new sign is 6 1/4, a little over 6 1/4 feet by 7 feet.
Okay, thank you very much. City staff.
Through the chair, this is Amy Beth Lath for the Planning Division. Since this item was last before you, as stated by the applicant, they have submitted revised plans for the sign. And as the applicant did say, so previously when this was before you, the sign was 73.8 square feet per side, and you all indicated that you wanted some revisions to that sizing. So the applicant came back, and the new sign is now sized at 44.1 square feet per side, with a comparison to the previous sign that was at this location, which was the BT's sign. That sign was 36.42 square feet per side, so 36.42 now to the proposed 44.1. This does change the height variance, the height relief that they were seeking. Originally, they were seeking, I lost myself, I apologize. Originally, they were seeking height variance of 3 feet. They were at 23 feet. Now they are at 21.08 feet. So their relief is only 1.08 feet to meet the height requirement of 20 feet for the freestanding sign. And then again, the pole that is pre-existing is closer to the property line than the 5 feet as required for a setback. So that is still the same. That's not changing. That sign pole has been there since like the 50s. I think that's it. Those were the revisions. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, is anybody here for 318 Park Avenue? Excuse me, is anybody here to comment on 318 Park Avenue? No one's rushing this up here. Is anybody online, you can use the raise your hand feature or press *9 to raise your hand. I'm gonna guess it's not a lot of folks. I'll just say really quickly, thank you. This was, I think this is a good change. It's a cool looking sign, so I'm happy to vote yes. And as somebody noted beforehand, it's literally up the street from me, so I walk by it all the time. I don't have anything else. Board Member Abramoff. Board
No
Member Abramoff
comment,
can't
I'm
speak.
recused.
He's recused. Board Member Cortez, excuse me.
Through the chair. First of all, thank you for paying attention to the concerns made at the last meeting. You've been very amenable to, to do the changes. And so I have no problems to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Moremi.
No comments.
Board Member Torcono.
No comment.
Board Member Barnhagen.
Through the chair, I agree. I appreciate the responsiveness of applicants who hear our comments and come back to the next meeting and actually take them to heart. Just a couple of housekeeping questions. The conditions of approval are all acceptable. On page 6 of the memo, there's minimal conditions here, but there are 3 of them. I just want to make sure that you're okay with them.
Could you read them? I don't, or,
Through the,
not sure if I.
It's provide evidence of authorization from the city to allow signs projection in the public way. If any construction activities damage the public way or public infrastructure, the applicant shall be required to replace the damaged infrastructure at their own cost to the city of Worcester. Specification as approved by the Commissioner of Public Works and the Commissioner of Transportation and Mobility, and the perpetual, provided that the project is constructed and operated in substantial ordinance with final revised plans on file the city of Worcester, and the ordinance will, with all applicable government codes, which is just standard.
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
and are you requesting the waivers?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further comment.
Great. In that case, I will take a motion to close.
I'd like to make a motion to close on 318 Park Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second,
On the motion to close, Board Member Cortez,
yes.
Board Member Maremi,
Yes.
Board Member Torcono,
Yes.
Board Member Barnhagen.
Yes.
My vote's yes. Is there a motion on 318?
I'd like to make a motion on 318 Park Avenue for approval of a variance for relief of 4.6 feet from the 5-foot minimum setback requirement for a permanent accessory freestanding sign in the BG3 zoning district, for approval of a special permit to allow dimensional relief for accessory signs, and approval of a special permit to extend, alter, or change a privileged pre-existing non-conforming structure and/or use, subject to the staff conditions as set forth on page 6 of the staff memo and the waivers as requested by the applicant.
Is there a second?
I do second the motion.
On the motion, Board Member Cortez,
Yes.
Board Member Maremi,
Yes.
Board Member Torcono,
Yes.
Board Member Barnhagen.
Yes.
My vote's yes. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much.
Sorry to make you come all this way just to make it a little bit smaller, but we appreciate it.
Not a big deal, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is number 325 Wabash Avenue. Okay, so Board Member Barnhagen is voting on this, but the reason for that is who is off, so that I don't make the same mistake the last time.
It's Board Member Maremi because she was not here when this was opened.
Okay, great. So Board Member Maremi, what I said the last time is true this time, and I apologize for that mistake. We would love your input, but you are not voting on this one.
Understood. Got it.
Thank you very much. Okay, if the applicant please is already forward, so just state your name, city, town of residence.
It's Adam Gavel. I live at 717 Pleasant Street in Worcester, Mass. I'm the managing member and contractor of this project, manager member of Monroe Management LLC. So last time we were here, I was looking to go from a 2 to a 4. Now we're looking to go from a 2 to a 3. So I think the slide was off. We kept the parking still the 5 compact spaces because I believe the neighborhood was very concerned about the parking spilling over to the street. We took the advice from the board where you guys said it's really a 3-family. The lot is tight and we agree with that. So we came back with the design that we think is it's shorter, it's not as tall. It still has the spirit of the first floor is going to be 100% ADU. Yeah, it went from the 4 to 3. And we expanded the porch a little because some of the conditions of approval, she wanted the porch expanded. We can't make it the full width of the front because there's gas meters that are going to be going in. So it's going to go in that corner. So, I mean, it's pretty much the same as it was last time, except it's a 3-family. Like I said, the first floor is 100% ADU. We could have requested a permit through the ADU law to get that 3rd unit, but we wanted the full 3-decker because units that are 3 or 4 bedroom and multiple baths are really needed in the city, so we wanted to keep that instead of putting like a 2-bedroom up there. And then, just regarding some of the conditions of approval, I know a lot of them have to do with architecture. I believe the preservation planner put those in there, and I don't know how I can, some of these I can't even agree to because the exterior changes depending on what goes on inside. And the kitchen layout used to be in the back, it's moving more towards the front. So just in general, if we're putting a kitchen on an exterior wall, we can't have the same windows that used to be there that goes a lot lower because the height of the kitchen cabinetry comes to about 34 inches, 36 inches. So if you want to go to some of the conditions, I'll just go to the architecture first.
If you could just go through the ones you'd like us to consider, that would be helpful for us.
So 1C on page 4, it says retain full width porch system on the first and second stories, use simple porch supports on the third story to visually identify them as not historic. To my knowledge, the building isn't historic. I think it'd look funny if there was a porch on 2 floors and then pieces of pine going up. Obviously, we want the building to look as beautiful as it can, and the whole point of the renovation is to modernize it. So I understand trying to preserve the front porch system, which I think is where she was going with that, but we can't put the full width because, like I said, it's going to be literally, if you want to look over there, right there is going to be gas meters. So I couldn't go the full width even if I wanted to. But we went the maximum we could, and we kept the pattern all the way up. And then regarding 1D, it says retain festation pattern, existing openings and rhythm on the first 2 stories and replicate on the third story, including an open the front gable. So we're not opposed to putting the front gable to peak. We just think it'll make it look taller. And I think, like last time we were here, the concern was it will fit out of character because of the height. So if I put a gable, which is right here, it would make the building appear taller because this would actually, instead of being the minimum pitch, it'd have to actually go higher. So we're trying to make it look not as tall as, or taller than the neighborhood buildings, and I think having that gable up there will make it look, because we have to increase the pitch. And then where it says retain festation pattern, which is existing openings, some of the openings on the side, so this side is exactly what it was, the front is exactly what it was, but on this side, these double windows, that right there is a kitchen, and right here is a bedroom. I think there was 2 windows here, so we couldn't keep the exact, and I think there's a window right here, which is part of the kitchen. So we couldn't keep exactly the original window locations because the inside layout changed. So I would look to, 1C, I would look to, I guess, remove, 1D to remove. 1E says retain and restore decorative windows on the first and second floor northern elevation. Replicate decorative window opening on the third floor in the same rhythm as the first and second, but fill the new window that is visually identified as non-historic. The windows all there have been replaced, or they're really old. So, I mean, there is no, to my knowledge, there is no like stained glass windows or anything like that. So we're going to change the windows, we're going to do a 6/1 grid pattern. It's all going to be uniform. I think it's going to be beautiful. I don't know exactly what she was getting at here, but I think maybe she thought something was stained glass or something like that. And then 1F says restore and reuse existing front doors and install a door of like design in the upper level access in a different material that is visually identified as non-historic. So it's an ADA unit in the front. I couldn't keep a wood door because it doesn't have the widths, and it maybe even where you go in has to be handicap accessible. So I couldn't keep it if I wanted to match the style. I could try to the best of my knowledge to match the style. I don't have any issue with that, but I couldn't keep a historic door on an ADA unit in the front. And then the other one is 1A. So 1A talks about trees. So I went by the property today, and on the left side of the building, there is like a 1-foot drop to the neighbor. And into all the way in the back, there's probably a 2 to 3 foot. If I show you, I don't know if the lot line's there. So the neighbor right here on the side here, there is a little elevation change. So I would like to put like a decorative, like a retaining wall, just to prevent any earth or anything from dropping to the neighbor. And the 2 trees that are there's 1 tree here and there's 1 tree in the back they want to save, is going to literally be where that wall is going. And also the trees are located right next to the paving area. So now another issue is when I'm paving, I don't know if I'm going to be cutting into the roots and possibly damage those trees. So I have no problem. I like vegetation. I like arborvitae's kind of on the sides. I could do spacing of every 3 feet or 3.5 feet or whatever the board recommends or would like. We're going to put vegetation in the front, and we're going to put vegetation in the back here. So yes, the parking is going from the front all the way to the back. We're going to have 5 spaces, and there is a few trees back there, but we have a whole Coltex system back there, because I think one of the neighbors said, we don't want water spilling into our buildings. So we're putting a whole Coltex system back there. I don't even think it's required on a 3-family. We're still doing it. We're trying to make the neighborhood better. When this building was taken over, I don't know, last 10 years, I think only maybe one of the units was, it appeared to me only one of the units was occupied. There was feces inside. It was rundown. There was fleas. I think the grass was 3 feet high in the front. So we're trying to bring this to 21st century state of the art. And like I said, ADA, it's going to be sprinklered. It's going to have 6/1 windows, vinyl siding, new roof. It's going to really go from an eyesore to a beautiful part of the neighborhood. Well, that's, I guess, my spiel.
Okay. City staff?
Sure, through the chair. Just to recap, so we were here and discussing this item back in May. We did have a number of comments and still do relative to architecture. The relief that you see has adjusted slightly since the prior iteration. So again, you heard the applicant review what had originally been proposed, and you saw on the screens was a 4-story, 4 units. They've reduced that from that proposal to be 3 units, 3 stories, the existing being 2 units, 2 stories. To respond to staff as well as board and resident comments that were provided as part of that hearing process. You have a series of comments that were provided in writing in addition to that testimony that are in your packet, including some new comments, so just drawing your attention to those. But specifically, just want to quickly walk through the relief in terms of the changes. So there's a reduction in the relief that's requested for lot area, so that is going down from what was 1,000 square feet of relief now to 750 square feet of relief from that 7,000 square foot requirement. We are seeing the request for relief related to the frontage go down from 15 feet to 10 feet from the now 60-foot minimum frontage requirement. We're seeing the same with respect to the setback. This changes because the use designation has changed. So we're seeing the requirement go from 10 feet to 8 feet, and therefore there's a reduction in the relief from 5 feet to 3 feet. They're still seeking 100% relief for all of the parking to be compact. So that's through a special permit and a variance. And then they're still seeking the special permit to modify the parking layout requirements. Some of that has adjusted based on the reduction in terms of the number of spaces that are required. Given the number of units, they no longer need the relief in terms of the quantity of parking. And then specifically because of the change in use, they no longer need the relief related to the driveway width minimums because this type of driveway for 3 units has a different standard. So the relief that they are seeking instead is for the landscape buffer to be less than 5 feet and for the drive aisle width to be less than 24 feet. They're proposing 22 feet, just about. And the landscape buffer in certain locations is less than that 5-foot requirement. So specifically on the southwest corner or top left of the plan is where that kind of narrows. So we did have a number of comments. I know the applicant has called out attention to a few in particular. I'll just clarify that the plans do not show a retaining wall, so it was not something that staff was aware of in terms of that a retaining wall was proposed. We had asked to confirm relative to the trees on the property, and the applicant is providing that update now that they'd like to remove those. We have it conditioned at present that that 2 trees, there are, I believe, 6 on site, that 2 trees remain. I will note too that for whatever reason we didn't catch this. I think maybe we were not sure what the type of vegetation was, but I think it's pretty clear that it's arborvitae. But there are requirements still for the northern or right side of the plan landscape buffer to have shade trees included in that. So they're based on that dimension. It's two trees that end up being required. So just want to clarify that we do end up, whatever ends up happening with respect to vegetation there, either the board needs to grant a waiver from the strict requirement of providing the shade trees every 25 feet along the northern and the southern sidelines in those locations. But the northern sideline, there's adequate room for that. The southern sideline, there's a little bit less room for the plantings. We do have new comments that were issued today from DTM. Those are not included in the planning recommendations. They're all standard comments that the department has. And then to address the specific comments that the applicants raised, my understanding is that if we go to the existing conditions photos, that the first and second stories both have full width front porches, so I'm unclear as to why the applicant would be unable to maintain that because of gas meters. So I'm hoping through the chair, maybe the applicant could address that. It seems like those have been there. Our request was to see those essentially stay, because what was proposed was a shortening or abbreviation of those. And so we'd like to keep that. If the third story is different, I think that it's fine. Our preference was, if they were going to bring that up, to see just different types of supports to be used. So it could be, same material, but just a more simple shape. These have some ornamentation to them. If my recollection serves, I know it's not totally discernible here in the images, but historically, I believe the property has had some, I think there's some interesting components of the supports, although they're in need of repair, as the applicant noted. So we were just looking for a different type to be used to help, again, distinguish kind of the old from the new, if you will. They could easily not incorporate a porch into the third story, and that would also help differentiate that as an alternative. But I think I guess my main question on that is I'm not clear why that's not possible.
Okay, so the thing is, let me see if I can show it this. On the side here is the parking, this pavement, so I can't put the gas meters there because a car is going to hit it. So the only place I can put is right here, because the other side is going to be a handicap ramp. So if I were to put the gas meters, and it would be on like the other side of the porch, they'd have to pipe it all the way underneath in there. I don't know if the gas company does that. I mean, if they do, I have no problem expanding the porch to the end.
Yeah, through the chair, we feel pretty strongly about the porch. The house recesses, and then there is another kind of section that protrudes. If we go to the civil plan, you can kind of see the dip that happens on the left-hand side, and I imagine the applicant would be able to work with the utility provider to incorporate bollards into the design if there was a concern about them not being able to incorporate that. But I think the porch is one of the most distinguishing architectural features, both for the existing house, but generally for structures. So I think that's something that staff feels strongly about, and it isn't necessarily a preservation-specific comment. So just, I think we would strongly prefer to see that condition remain. Related to the fenestration pattern, because I think there was a question or concern about that. So if we go to the existing elevations, you can see here on the right-hand side, this is the northern elevation in particular that was referenced. So you can see in the front, there are these two smaller windows, which are indicative of, typically what you'd see in a stairwell, but they're smaller windows and do create some interest. And so I think our comments were related to maintaining this pattern in the fenestration, right? So having that same rhythm of the windows, and so the size of the windows. If you look at what the applicant's proposing for that same elevation, you can see that the glazing changes, the orientation of the windows change, and those smaller windows in the front are no longer. So I think that piece, which is closer to the street, more visible from the street, is an important element. And so we were asking that they keep those original or older windows, restore them or replace them with something in kind, and then maintain on the third story a window of the similar rhythm and size to sort of play off of that, if you will. So that the intent of that comment is getting at that in particular. It does also comment on the front gable peak, and I think originally the request was to do that. You see that they have basically the way that the hip roof is, it sort of creates the illusion of the gable. So I think the comment was to have the applicant include essentially a gable in that. Ultimately, if the board is concerned about that, getting back to the comments that were provided related to this is one of the older homes on the street, and so architecturally it is not a three-decker. It hasn't been, that's not the era in which it was constructed. It predates that, and so it's got a different aspect in terms of the form it takes, right? So you see the gabled end, and you have these full-width porches on the lower stories, because this was built at a time that was different. I believe, if I recall correctly, we had done some research and we thought it was a store at one point, and the storekeeper probably lived in the second unit. So anyhow, that's where those comments come from. You can see in terms of architecturally, the structure, doesn't look like a three-decker now. Obviously, the applicant's proposing to change that with the addition of a third story. So I know there was quite a bit of discussion on this. Ultimately, the relief is up to the board. Those are comments that were provided from our team related to the design and in part related to the history of the structure. I just want to characterize too, just because something isn't designated and reviewed by the Historic Commission doesn't mean that it's not a historic structure or have historic value. Just the words we use, kind of don't always cover the intent. So we're not regulating this from a perspective of the Historic Commission does not have jurisdiction to review alterations, but this is an older structure. Back in our memo, we have the specific date, I believe. We believe it was around 1885. So it's an older structure regardless. So I think those are the comments that we'd have on C and D specifically. Related to the decorative windows, again, that's kind of referring specifically to those windows that I referred to there. And for the front doors, I guess I heard the applicant mention that there's a concern about the door related to accessibility. I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Horn could comment on that too, if that is a requirement and what that might mean for the opening. Or do you know what size the door is now?
I'm not aware of the exact size, but I do know it's wood. I know ADA threshold, there's a step up, that's going to change. And I know there has to be a minimum width, I think it's 34 inches, if I'm not mistaken.
To the chair. Thank you. There's no ADA requirements for this.
I understand, we're doing it because we want to put an ADA unit on the
Okay.
first floor.
I just want to be clear, there's no requirement for
Yeah.
it, so.
So the beauty of this lot is very flat. A lot of three-deckers in the city are not flat. So we felt, because it's a flat lot, it made sense to have an ADA unit on the first floor. So that's something that we're looking to do.
Through the chair. That's why you're putting the handicap ramp around the back
Yeah,
of the
on the
house
right
for that
side.
first floor unit to be handicap accessible?
Yes.
Just so we're clear too, in terms of ADA, if they're going to put an ADA unit in, we would expect it to comply. We don't want it not to comply, so although there's no strict requirements, if you're going to opt into it, then we would be looking for certain requirements. But is the door you can't put a 36-inch door in there?
I believe most of these buildings are between 34 to 36. I don't know if that's a 36 or not. The thing is, when my architect looked at it, he was like, the height is problematic with some of the things going on there. So that's why I think changing it to fiberglass would make more sense where it complies with all the ADA requirements.
No, I guess what was the question with the door and the ADA requirement?
Yeah, through the chair, I think the applicant's assertion was that because of the ADA requirements, they cannot retain the wood door, so the material, I guess, is one, and then the second is the size of the door, but the applicant doesn't seem to know the actual dimension, if I'm understanding correct.
Yep.
But it sounds like it needs to be 36.
Through the chair, one more time, and I apologize. So typically, most front egress doors, even of older homes, are of 36 inches would be the door size, so, and that would be accessible.
Like I said, there's thresholds. It makes more sense to put a new door that complies with everything, especially with regard to like the window, being able to see who's behind it, than it is to retain an older door that, it could be lead paint, we don't know. I don't know how strong it is. We did do demolition. I don't know if it's in good shape to even keep. Like I said, I'd feel more comfortable not putting it in there and then having to come back to the board and saying, we couldn't maintain the front door. I believe the comment one of the previous people that came in front of the board today was, we don't want you to come back. So I'd rather mitigate that beforehand.
Ultimately, through the chair, it's up to the board. Staff's recommendation was that these are original wood doors and that they should be retained if possible. If for whatever reason the board decides to if the applicant wants to proceed with that, you could condition that those doors be replaced with something that appears as wood. So if they're going to do a fiberglass door, that they would find one that looks like wood and that it is a color that is akin to what's there. I'm not certain of the color off the top of my head here.
So if I may, from my construction experience, of course, Dave Horn would be better to ask than me. Every time there's a wood door in the front, they'd always advise you to put a storm door because the wood expands and contracts. So I don't know how that's going to work with handicap accessibility. So that's why the proposal is to change the door. Obviously, we could make it look as close to what it is now. I don't have an issue with that. It's just that it's a lot easier to replace it than to try to get working a door that we don't even know the age. It could be 30, it could be 50, it could be 100 years old.
You want to speak out of turn? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair. Having experience on the area of accessibility, I'm not so sure on them if, and I don't think so. ADA doesn't really determine the material of a door. ADA, as long as it's the width, the 36 inches, whatever needs a ramp, no steps, you know, the ADA is specific on that. So regarding the door, the staff is recommending some type of a door. If you can do it, I would say move on with that. Other than that, checking the requirements of the ADA, you may have a good excuse not to do it. You find it there. Now, I'm not so sure, excuse me, through the chair, I'm not so sure what you put in there's an issue where the ramp is going to be. Are you talking putting the ramp on the side, on the right side of the door there?
Yes.
The ramps.
Okay, so there, apparently there is an issue why it's there. Now, an architect can provide you a better site where they can provide the accessible entrance. In my experience, you can always have the steps in front of the door. Those steps can actually be a ramp straight to the door there. You don't have to bother by modifying the size there. People who walk steps can use the ramp to walk there. So I don't think you need to create yourself a problem by setting a ramp on the right side.
So I don't think there is no one's arguing about a problem with a ramp. That's not a question. The architect designed it, there's space for it, that's not what we're here about. I mean, if you feel strongly that the ramp should be in the front, I think that's different from my perspective, that's different from there's a problem with it that the city's wrestling with. They have designed it with an architect, and there's no problem from that perspective from the city that's oversighting it. The question is about the door itself.
Okay, I understand, and I made a point regarding the door. I'm not saying, and I am not requesting or insinuating that you should have the ramp in front of the door. I'm saying, based on my experience, I see that can be done. However is decided to do it, and because of what I said, you could do it if that's what is good and provide the accessibility. And I'm not getting, then I'm making the point, you probably don't need to go through the extra work on having a ramp on the right side. It's all I'm making, it's just based on my knowledge that can be done.
So I guess I'll just say, I want to go back to the regular order so that we don't speak out of turn on this. We, as a board, will address sort of our thoughts on the sort of staff's recommendations on this. I personally do not care. I would rather have a fiberglass. I have a wood door. It's a pain in the butt. It gets stuck all the time. I don't understand this obsession with the wood door. As somebody who lives in a home that's from 1880s, I would knock it down in a heartbeat. So I personally don't care. I don't really understand why we're arguing about this, but that's not for this discussion now. What's for this discussion now is anything, if the city is done, we'll open it up to the public and then we'll have a turn to go. So if the city's done, yes, or if you want to say something else.
Yeah, so these projects that I'm doing, they're long-term holes. And the first issue we have, which always comes up, is doors. Doors are not working properly, doors that are sticking, also lead paint on doors. Every one of our buildings, every one of the projects that I came before you guys is de-leaded. So we don't have a project that has lead because it's too much liability and it's just not safe, you know, with children under 6. I'll give an example. Apartment was rented to, I don't want to get the whole gist of it, but they had a kid, and the lady was 45 years old and had a kid, and she already had like 4 kids, and then we had to de-lead the unit while she was in there, it was the only unit that I managed that did not have the lead certs. So it was a nightmare on Elm Street. So keeping old wooden doors when we're doing a project that, you know, this is at least $250, $300 renovation easy, to change a door for another $1,500 and know that it's going to stand the test of time, have the right dimensions, that's something that, you know, the guys that I work with, the guys I work for, decide that makes sense. So that being said, we don't mind picking a similar pattern. We don't have any issue with that, but leaving old items on a gut renovation project that's getting a third story with, obviously, with the board's approval, it makes more sense to change it. So regarding the front porch, I know there is a possibility to put it right here. The reason we don't like putting on this little bump out, because it's like 2 feet, maybe 2.5 feet, and we're afraid a vehicle will hit it. I mean, that being said, if you want to keep the full length of it, we could figure something out. I'm not going to fight over that. I do like the look of the front, to be honest. I think it's a nice look. So I don't mind doing the full span, and I don't know, that's going to be either I'm going to put the meter here and put a lolly column or something next to it. I can work with that. I don't have an issue with that. We could do the full span and the gable to kind of imitate what the front look is. Regarding Michelle's comment on the side with the smaller windows, we could carry those small windows, so I don't have an issue with that either. The reason why it was eliminated is because we have a huge door in the front that's going to have, it's going to be a 9 light or 6 light at the very least, so there's plenty of light going in. And sometimes with those windows on the stairs, a kid can knock it and it has to be tempered glass, etc. So that's why we eliminated it, but we don't mind putting that in. We don't have any issue with that. If the board wants to add that, we don't have any issue with that. We could put those windows on the side if it helps with the aesthetics. The front porch, we can do the full front porch with the gable, so it kind of mimics what's there. I think there was a mention of some of the details on the porch. I don't believe those are, those details you could buy at Home Depot. It has the column that changes a little bit. If you want us to do it, we can do it. We plan on putting PVC railing, everything PVC in the front, so it stands the test of time. Like I said, we don't, generally speaking, we try not to do PT, because PT, you have to reseal it, there's issues, it could sliver. We try to do vinyl, railings, the whole 9 yards, so it stands the test of time.
Okay, I'd like to get to public comment, which is the next item. If you are here, and I know that we got a bunch, I'll remind the board, we had a lot of really informative feedback, including on the updated forms in our folder, but and also here, and I know people are here to speak. So if you would like to speak on 25 Wabash Avenue, we'll start, yes please, we'll start with people here in person. Please come forward, state your name and city of town of residence, make sure you put all comments to me. And for folks who are online, raise your hand now so that Amy Beth can have you ready to go if you'd like to talk on 25 Wabash Avenue. And again, to speak online, you use the raise your hand feature or press *9 if you're here by phone. We're going to take the people here in person, and then we'll get to the people online. Okay, go ahead. Thank you very much.
All right, our primary concern is the traffic.
Can you just say your name again?
I'm Marcia Grenier. I live on 28 Wabash Ave,
Thank you very much.
and I've lived there for 37 years. Okay, we brought our 2 children up at that address. So in that time, we've seen more and more cars on the street, and we've seen bigger vehicles. And even in the summer, it's oftentimes difficult to get through especially if you have 2 big vehicles parked on either side of the street. And we don't have a big car, we have a Honda Civic. In winter, when there's one-sided parking and snow, banks on either side of the street, it's even more of a problem. Sometimes it's almost impossible sometimes just to get our little car through. So our main concern, well, my husband and I are well into our 8th decade. We have health concerns, and there are other people on the street who are older and also have health concerns. What happens if an emergency vehicle can't get through to us? And the buildings are close together. There's a fire, and the fire trucks can't get through. You're going to have a conflagration. The parking plan that Monroe Management is proposing is totally inadequate. They're proposing compact spaces. Are they going to require all of their tenants to have compact cars and only 1 car? If their tenants have a business of their own, a truck or a van, or they own an SUV, they might just park on the street rather than to negotiate their way through that narrow driveway into that backyard and try to turn in and out, especially if there's snow in the winter. And where are they going to put the snow in the winter? We're very concerned about that. The other thing is there's 3 deckers up and down the street on the opposite side already, and none of those 3 deckers have adequate parking. Those people park on the street. We don't need another 3-decker with inadequate parking. And there's another 2-family house next to that. If you allow this, if you permit Monroe Management to build a 3-decker there, how do we know that someone else isn't going to buy the 2-family next to that and get another 3-decker? And maybe there'll be another property on the street that the LLC purchases and builds another 3-decker. How are the people, this is not in the public good. People on the street already have enough trouble with parking and congestion. These 3-deckers were built over 100 years ago. I'm descendant from Swedish ancestors who immigrated to this zip code where I live. At the end of the 1800s. There were no cars then. There were no SUVs. There were no Amazon trucks delivering, to people on those streets. It was probably a dirt street. You could picture horse-drawn carts coming through, delivering milk and ice to the people who lived on that street. It was a different world. 3-deckers were a good housing opportunity for people back then, but now they're just creating a lot of problems. There's still, I know there's a housing shortage in Worcester, but adding another housing unit on our street is not going to solve the housing problem, and it's going to create a lot of problems for our street. So I'm sure you saw the petition. There are a lot of people on the street who just do not want to see another housing unit on the street with all the problems it's going to cause. I hope you pay attention to that. What we would like to see, as you mentioned, this is a house that goes way back. We would like to see it restored as a 2-family house that would beautify the neighborhood. And just as a little note, he mentioned how they wanted to beautify the neighborhood. Well, the house has been in disrepair for at least a year. The yard is overgrown. There's plastic hanging from the walls. There's a pile of dirt in the driveway and an abandoned car in the driveway. So we're not sure about just how much they want to beautify that building. So thank you. I hope you don't approve a 3-story building for that site. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Kim. I live on Wabash Ave too. In listening to everything, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, so I'm sorry if I stutter.
Take your time.
So a couple of things that I want to say first. The biggest concern for the majority of the people that we talked to on the street is the fire, rescue, ambulances, anything like that. We did have a car fire just a couple weeks ago, almost diagonally across from where 25 Wabash is. And the fire trucks were there in moments. It was amazing. I'm very grateful that they were able to get there so fast. And I did send a picture of it to you guys so you can see the street. And in speaking with a couple of the police officers, he actually noted that if there were vehicles parked on both sides of the street, they never would have made it down our street. God knows what would have happened to the poor woman and her 2 dogs, or the houses that it happened right in front of. It's frightening to think about, but it's a reality because, yes, we do have a lot of 3-deckers. We have more single-family homes on that street, in actuality, but we do have quite a few 3-deckers. And we have a lot of issues with parking. People can park on both sides of the street except for the winter. Nobody goes around in tickets, so the people that park on both sides always park on both sides. We had a lot of snow this year. There was absolutely nowhere to put the snow. It was in mounds anywhere they could put it when they came and plowed. And to add to that, you can't tell me that in a 3-family, you're going to have more than 50% of compact cars. It's not going to happen. If you go down our street and you look at the cars that are parked on the street, there's maybe 10%, and I'm being very gracious, of compact cars. So to think you're going to own a 3-decker and be able to put all those cars in that parking lot, it's just not realistic, to be honest. The parking, the fact that he said he wanted to make things better, Marcia was right. The front of it looks the way it did when he bought it. It looks just as bad. And there's a white minivan parked in there. And for some reason, they're dumping dirt all in the back. There's mounds of it everywhere. There's mounds of it on the side of it. There's pallets thrown on top of it. I don't feel like that's helping anything. And how long is it going to look like that? Why is it even there? But in listening to everything that was happening, I feel like there's so much. This isn't something that I'm used to. I'm not a contractor. This is the second meeting I've gone to, so I don't even get the flow of it or anything, but with what everybody was talking about, it sounded like he's already got an approval for a 3-family, which I don't think we did, right? Okay, just making sure I'm on the right page.
You're on the right page, yes.
Okay. You can't blame one zoning requirement for not being able to meet another. There's a reason he needs all these variances. The lot is made for a 2-family. Period. That's it. There's not a hardship. He bought a 2-family. He knew the size of the lot when he bought it. He knew the size of the house when he bought it. He knew the condition of the house. Maybe not the feces, but he knew everything else about the lot when he bought it. I don't think you should be able to get the variances and get it all approved because you're not making back what you thought you were going to, unless he had the intention of always turning that into a 4-family, which I hope he didn't. But he keeps asking for more, and I don't think he should get more. I think it should stay a 2-family. The windows that you were talking about are in every single 3-family on that street. And they're in those stairwells, just like she was describing. It should stay a 2-family. And a little side note about the ramp he wants to put to the right of that, I can barely fit between the house and that fence. There's no way, if you needed a wide wheelchair, that's not going to fit there. I don't understand how that could fit there. He also wants to put a porch in the back. On one of the plans, it says there's a porch in the backyard. So that's going to take up more parking spaces. How are people going to turn around in that? I live a couple of houses up, and we have almost the same size lot in the back. And our landlord cleared a lot of the land and made it a wider parking lot. We get along. All of us are neighbors. We all get along in our 3-family, and we can kind of communicate how to move and who needs to go to work at what time and everything. And it's a tight fit for 4 cars. And he wants 5 compact. It's just not, it's not going to work. I don't know any, we actually have a 3-family across from 25. The landlord had to stop letting people park in the driveway because they couldn't figure out what time other people left. So people were just sitting in the driveway, laying on the horn for 25 minutes till somebody came out and moved because they couldn't get out. You can't guarantee that people, unfortunately, are going to be willing enough to work together and get in and out of a small space nicely. Whoever the landlord is going to be, you're probably going to get a phone call every night. So-and-so's blocking me in. I can't get out. This one didn't park that way. It's just setting it up to fail. And it's not going to fit within the neighborhood. It was made a 2-family. It should stay a 2-family and fit in with the rest of the neighborhood and keep the vehicles off the street. I think that's about all I got. I probably didn't say half of what I wanted to, but I'm just really upset. I think it should stay a 2-family, please. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. No one else online? Okay. I'll just clarify for you what we do, and this is confusing. So I remember when I first came, it was very confusing, so I will do my best to say what goes on. Somebody comes before the city and says, I'd like to do this thing, and the city works with that person to do it in a way that complies with city rules. And so we're talking out, what would it look like if we approved it for them to do it in a way that works with what the city sets out as the way it thinks about doing it. And so the back and forth was about that. Like if this gets approved, it has to do so in a way that fits with the city's rules and what they want it to look like and everything else, and the developer has some say. But nothing has been decided about that process. Yes. If you have a question, unfortunately, you do have to come forward and say your, for the record. Just state your name again for the record. And I'm sorry, it's because we want to comply with open meetings.
There was just one more thing.
Could you say your name again, please?
Marcia Grenier, 28 Wabash Ave, Worcester, Mass.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there was one more thing I forgot, and
Okay, go ahead,
Kim
please.
reminded me. Yeah, according to the Mass General laws, there should be a hardship. I haven't heard anything about the hardship. We're not talking about a family that wants to build, add a few rooms or a little apartment for an elderly or disabled family member to keep them out of a nursing home. This is a business investment. And if they somehow they were planning on, it looked like they were going to restore it as a 2-family. If somehow they discovered that they couldn't get a return on their investment as a two-family, or they plan to build a multifamily in the first place, people on our street shouldn't suffer the hardship that they're going to cause to do this. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there does not appear to be anybody else, so it is up to our conversation now for some of the things. So some of the things for the board members, I'd like you to make sure in your thoughts to reflect on are the applicant asked us to think about 1A around, and I have a question about that to the applicant in a second, but 1A around the trees and making sure that we talk about compliance, 1C about the second stories and so forth, and there seems to be some agreement that we can figure out some version of that, but we can talk about that. I'd like, it would be good for people if they have thoughts about that. 1D again, 1E and 1F. And again, board members heard the sort of comments on that. And so I'd like your thoughts on that as well. Okay. So from our perspective, I guess the first thing I will say is I actually really liked the idea of a 4-story. I think it's really innovative, and I think we should be trying to think about ways that people get more housing. I think it was too much for Wabash Avenue, but I do like the concept of trying to sort of push to have more stacking on top and think about sort of how do we think about sort of having some more housing. So I think it is right to not do it here, but just since you do other projects, I think that's a good idea generally. I think for this place, I have now been up Wabash a few times now, I think, and it is definitely tough in wintertime and definitely tough to get through there. And that does weigh on me in terms of this process. I think ultimately I can vote yes on some version of this because you can do this already by right. So 3 can go in here in some form or another, and I always would prefer that we do it in a way that we put some regulations than the 3 units that are allowed in there today can put 3 units on this property. And so the question isn't, yes, technically they could add another one, but realistically, 3 units are going to be here. So then the question is, how do we do so in a way that we can have some oversight over? So that's how I'm going to fall down on this. But I do want to say that I really do hear the applicants on the residents on this. And I think the city, especially your city councilor, should think about some regulations around the parking in this area and have some deeper thoughts about how are we thinking about keeping flow on the street and some maintenance of it. In terms of who will live in a place like this, I own a 3-decker. I will tell you, people just choose to live places where they can park, and if you have to rent it, and people will leave if they don't like that they can't ever park and can't ever find parking and have too big a car. And if they have a business, if you have a business, you're not looking to live in my apartment, in my 3-decker. I live in that 3-decker. You're not going to live on that street. You're not going to find parking. You're not going to park in my driveway, which is not 24 feet. It's 18 feet. You're not going to park in my driveway because it won't match for you. And who lives in our 3-decker? It's people who because of the nature of where we live and the fact that it's a 3-decker, mostly we have people who use Uber to get around. That's overwhelmingly how people get around, and a few people park. And they park in our driveway, and we have to manage it and argue with each other and make sure somebody comes, and we have to do all the things that people have to do when they live in an old building that was for sure made for horses, and definitely not. We have a literal horse. We have a place in the back to keep horses, so that's literally what it's for. So people choose, they make their own decisions on where they want to live, and people with bigger cars and bigger things, they will have to take that into consideration, and you will lose people wanting to live there or not based on that. And so for me, we can't, people will decide ultimately to live there or not live there based on what is available. And that being said, it does weigh on me. I think wanting to have, again, they could put 3 here and not add any parking. And so them coming before us means that we can put some oversight over that and ask for some parking. So I'm happy to move forward with the parking requirements as is, and some version of a three-decker here, as stated, with our oversight. And let's talk a little bit about my perspective on the oversight. So my perspective on what the city would like and the applicant's desire to push back on that. Of course, now I've lost this page. Here we go. Okay, so my perspective on it, first and foremost, I think I've been now several times past this property. I have a hard time believing that it's accessible for a wheelchair as the doorway is now. But then again, I think the neighbor who said that the side might not be big enough either is actually something I hadn't thought about, and that's actually a good point. So I know what the regulations are for ADA. I know what the width of the entrance has to be. I know my entrance doesn't meet that because we have somebody who needs ADA compliance, and my father-in-law currently can't get into my apartment because it's not big enough, it's not wide enough. We have an old building. I genuinely hate our wood door. I love our old building. I love our 1880 building. I love the old wood. I love living in an old building. I love being a caretaker for something that existed before I existed and will exist after I exist. And I can tell you that the wood door gets stuck. It falls off its hinges. We can't get parts for it because it's too old. We can't things. So I don't know what the city's obsession with this is. I would happy for it to be fiberglass and just for it to work. I think, like, my daughter currently complains every single morning to me that she can't open the door because it got stuck, because it grows in the summertime, then it shrinks in the wintertime, and all of the things that happen. So I would be happy to have whatever door the applicant would like there. That is not the hill I want to die on. And in fact, I could tell you from somebody who lives on a day-to-day basis, it's a nightmare to have a wood door. And so I understand not wanting it. It certainly would not be my choice. If we could get rid of it, I would. In a heartbeat, because it's a pain. It's a total pain. Try getting a part for an 1880s door. It's a lot of fun. Try it, especially when it starts to come off the hinges. It's a nightmare. That being said, some of the other things the city likes, I 1,000% would like to keep. So I think the front porch makes a lot of sense. For me, I'd like to keep it. I think putting the gas on the side, we did that on ours. I think it can be done. You do have to work with the gas company. They can be a little bit of a pain, but they ultimately will do it if you ask them, in my experience, again, just my experience. So I would like to keep that. I'd also like to keep the small window on the side. Ours also has that. I think it really does. It's an interesting feature for the city and for Worcester, so I'd like to keep that on this as well. Other than that, there isn't a retaining wall on the plans. And so I would like to keep the trees, or I would like a retaining wall to appear on the plans and some explanation about why it's there. Trees do a better job of keeping out water than do retaining walls. So generally speaking, I'd like to keep the tree and not put a retaining wall. I think you're doing some really important things in the back. I really, for those who aren't aware, the applicant is not required to do any sort of filtration that they're planning to do. The filtration that they're planning to do is the top filtration they could do. So they are taking something that they're not required to do and doing the most filtration to keep water on the site. So that's good and should be, and thank you for that. I think that's good. That being said, I would rather keep a tree than a retaining wall. So my summation of a very long thing is I'm going to vote yes on 3 units, and for the parking that's involved with it, I'm going to ask to keep C, D, and I'm not sure about, and C and D, and I would be free, I think, to, I think E and F. The city can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm okay losing E and F. I think we still keep the other things. So I'm okay. I myself, speaking for one vote, I'm amenable to that changes, to those to pushing those off, and I've spoken a lot. Board Member Abramov.
Yes, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you did a very good job summing it up. The developer seems like they've listened to us last time, and 4 units was too much. They can do 3 units here by right. So by coming to us to do it this way, we're able to put conditions on it. And I think what we've come up with, I don't really care about the type of door they put. As long as it opens and closes and meets code, I'm good with it. I think it is an issue in the whole neighborhood about the parking. And I think I would recommend that some of the neighborhood people get together with their city councilor and see if they can get one side of the street parking or some other kind of limitation to or resident-only parking or something like that to try to improve it. But I agree with you, Mr. Chair, and I can support it with the conditions that we've outlined. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Cortez.
Through the chair. As we all know, this project came before us, and we did pay attention to the plan, what was going to be constructed there, and we did also pay good attention to the abutters' concerns, the size of the building for the neighborhood, and of course the parking, and so we did listen to it. And it appears to me that the proposal, the owner who's proposing this here, did listen to it and was amenable to reduce the size of this building from 4 to 3 levels, and made other concessions to accommodate and resolve the main concerns. And so I'm happy to hear that, and it should be a midway, and I don't force anyone to make the wrong decisions or get into nobody, but it's a concession here between the neighbors and yourself, and you are providing. You gave up something. So it's a give and take to me in anything in life. So I thank you for that, because I think that resolves some of the big concerns there. Because of the reduction of the to 3 levels, it'll accommodate is parking, because now it's not providing parking for 4 levels, but for 3, which is reasonable to me, in my view. Regarding traffic, I live in Worcester, we all live in Worcester, and not only Worcester, but we all complaining about traffic, the way traffic is getting atrocious in the city of Worcester. Parking is all that, is how the city is moving forward. And how can we avoid that cars run over the streets, less cars run on the streets. And that is listening to everybody's concern, my concern, traffic problems. Yet there is some things in here that are not under our jurisdiction to take into our responsibility. The chair mentioned some of them. Is not our purview. If there are issues with parking and stuff like that, there are other authorities in the city of Worcester that needs to be they need to be addressed. So it's not under the zoning board of appeals. So it needs to be on that to be understood. Having said that, I am in favor of retaining 1C as recommended by the staff. I'm in favor of also retaining 1D. And regarding 1F, I have made a point there, and I think there's something that can be, I hear you that you are amenable to whatever the city may prefer the best way to do. So that means you are flexible to work with that and go through it. Having said that, that's I think if that is, you meeting all the rest of the requirements, then the recommendation, your amendment to the rest of the recommendations, you went through it, and having that explanation, my question is, do you understand clearly the reasoning and analysis why we prefer to have 1C, 1D, and the issue regarding the accessibility thinking? So you clearly understand what the reasoning from the city. Thank you. He says yes. This is it for me.
And I won't comment anymore, but I think I misspoke too, because I don't think I fully understand. So C, so just for clarification for the other board members, C is the front porch width. D is the fenestration patterns on the first floor and the third floor. That's also in the gable peak. So that's saying basically keep the same, like making sure it stays the same in terms of having the porches, and then the third floor having something, but it doesn't need to change the pitch. They could do that within the pitch that's proposed. They wouldn't have to like create a full gable, or should we clarify for ourselves?
Through the chair, I think at this point, just given there's some modifications, that it might just be good for us to clarify exactly what the board means. So just to clarify for this particular one, so I think we're on the same page with respect to the porch at this point. It sounds generally, don't want to misspeak for the board members, but it sounds like most of the board members are in support of keeping the porches the full width. So when you're talking about the fenestration pattern, really we were talking about this primary northern elevation, or sorry, primary facade, like the facade, right? The primary elevation, so street facing elevation. So if you look on the right-hand side, you can see that there are small windows in the left-hand portion that faces the street that's recessed. Those are proposed for elimination. So our comment was that those be retained on that, essentially on that elevation, right? So the other window openings are essentially following the same rhythm and pattern on all of the stories. An earlier iteration was not. So I think really the one thing that remains at this point are those smaller windows over on the left-hand side, which I believe are in the kitchen, based on the floor plans of the layout.
So just to clarify through you, so there's the windows that sort of forward-facing are one question, and then the windows that are on the side are a different question.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so I misspoke, so that's just, so I want to clarify, because I made this mistake. So C is keeping the front-facing ones, is the question for the
Or
board.
C is keeping the porches.
D is keeping the front-facing
Correct.
windows, and E is keeping the side windows.
Correct.
Okay. So for the record, I guess I would be happy to lose the front-facing windows and keep the side-facing windows. And other board members moving forward, if you have thoughts about that, and then Board Member Bromhoff and Cortez will come back to you, and I apologize that I messed that up. Board Member Moremi, I know you can't vote, but we'd love your thoughts if you have any.
No comments at this time.
Board Member Torcono?
I will keep, before I go in, I will keep 1C, 1D, 1E, if possible, F as is. And if the applicant is amendable to all the conditions laid by the city, I'm fine. I know the parking is tight. I wish we can do maybe 2.5, but we live in the city, so we have to deal with the city life, so I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. And so just to clarify, because I myself missed it, I think, in the room, you would like to keep F, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Board Member Barnhagen.
Through the chair. I share some of the same concerns that have been raised here. My biggest takeaway from this is that a third floor could be built without our approval through an ADU. It would be 900 square feet, but it would be a third residence with its own car supply being there. So if we had no relief whatsoever being sought, they could build the third floor. So what we gain by, obviously the third floor that they're proposing is larger than what they could build by right through an ADU. But what we gain in return is that we have all of these conditions that we're talking over, extra trees, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a give and take here. So that differentiates it in my mind for me from the previous proposal, which added another story on top of that, and I do understand the neighbors' concerns on the street. This is a very narrow street. It is clearly among the narrowest that you're trying to, if you're going to build a three-decker, it's going to be difficult to navigate through here. But like I said, there would be a third floor with its own carload regardless. So that kind of pushes it over in my mind to moving towards yes. I had a question for the applicant about A, though. So there's been discussion here about the two trees on the left side, I guess the southern side of this lot, one towards the front of the property and one towards the rear. The one in the front, you mentioned about potentially losing that because you wanted a retaining wall, and I agree with the chair. I would rather keep the tree and not have a retaining wall than the other way around. And the one in the back, are both these trees still there? And okay, and the one in the back, could you comment on that? Is there a reason why you feel like that tree can't remain in place, or are you okay with that tree remaining in place in the back?
The thing is, the retaining wall, the elevation change is only like between a foot to maybe 2.5 feet, but I'd rather have a retaining wall and the water mitigation systems we're using to prevent any runoff to any of the neighbors. So we're still going to plant trees like arborvitaeans. It's not that I want to eliminate the tree. It's just that it's very hard to put a retaining wall when there's a root system there and parking when it's like a few feet away.
So if the board decided to nonetheless keep 1A, and those two trees would either need to be maintained as is in place, or if they had to be removed, or if you decided to remove them, you would have to replace those trees with non-arborvitae additional trees, because arborvitae is not a tree. Would you be able to do that?
I mean, I could fit a tree on the property somewhere if you guys
Two
would
trees.
like. Two
If you
trees.
removed the two trees on the left, you'd have to replace them. The way this condition is currently phrased, if you weren't able to keep those trees, or you decided you didn't want to keep those trees, you'd have to replace them with two additional trees.
In the back, if we could go to the back. So if you can see the back, this area over here, I could probably fit one or two trees over here. If you want to say if I remove these two because they're in the way, I could put two over here. I don't have an issue with that.
Through the chair, the two trees are required on the right-hand side unless this board waives that. So you need to either add a condition or allow for that that's separate from A. So we would propose a new condition H, which would say reflect two shade trees on the northern lot line abutting the parking facility in compliance with Article 5, Section 5C. So that area that is being highlighted in the green on the right-hand side, two shade trees are required in that area under current zoning. So unless you give special permission, they need two trees there. In addition, we were suggesting that basically those two trees on the Plan West stay. The applicant's asserting they'd like to remove those to accommodate a retaining wall. I'll indicate the infiltration system that they're proposing is subterranean, so I don't know the effect of like a foot-tall wall related to that. I don't think there'll be much effect. But if, for whatever reason, they were removing those two trees, we would be looking for, unless the board waives the requirement to have the trees on the right-hand side, we'd be looking for this to be revised. The other thing is that if the board wants to continue this, we can work this out with the applicant and come back, because it feels like there is a lot of discussion that we're having, and I'd rather us be on the same page with the applicant and understand the board's intent, which I think we do at this point, rather than have you conditionally approve something and have it not line up with what your expectation is, or have the applicant take issue with it. So want to caveat that if that's the board's preference, given the time and the length of discussion, if you'd rather move it along, that's fine, but I just want to offer that we're happy to do that as well.
So to clarify, unless we add a condition that allows them to change the need for 2 trees on the northern border here, they will need 4 trees total if we keep 1A. They would need to either keep the 2 trees on the left and also add 2 trees on the right, or if they remove the 2 trees on the left for whatever reason, there would need to be still 2 trees on the right and an additional 2 trees.
Correct, unless you waive the requirement for the 2 trees on the right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess once I'm finished, we can go back and decide whether this is something we want to continue or not. But there does seem to be a lot of back and forth discussion and some confusion. But I would be okay, I would prefer to keep 1C. It seems like everybody wants to do that. I would want to keep 1D. I would want to keep, well, 1D, I don't care strongly one way or the other, because that's the front-facing,
Yeah, it's
the
the front-facing. I
street-facing
made a
small
mistake,
windows. Yeah, so 1D, I don't mind if that gets stricken. 1E, I would want to keep, and 1F, I don't care if it's stricken, because I agree with the chair. If the door should just be ADA compliant, and it doesn't have to be wood. I would, maybe if I was going to do anything with F, I would want to just make some kind of condition that it try to retain the feel and look of the current door, even if it's of a different material. And I know that the applicant has said that you're fine with that, but I wouldn't mind having an actual condition be there as well. And just, I don't know if we're going to vote on this or continue it, but you are requesting the waiver, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. That's all for now.
Yeah, we'll go back around. But yes, to the applicant. So do you understand that? So basically, if we were to keep 1A, which we're going to go back around and talk about, you would need to, besides the 2 trees you're already agreeing to on shade trees on the right-hand side, you would need 2 additional trees to add there. And I'll just echo, I was on the Conservation Commission, and I was like, well, you don't need a retaining wall to keep water on the site if it's going to flow into the cul-de-sac. That's not how it works. You might have a berm at the most, right? Like you don't need a whole retaining wall. So if you want to, if you feel strongly about it, I would say, 1, it would be good to have it on the plans, and 2, you'd have to make a plan to add additional trees, 2 additional trees, or the other board members. I myself would like to see the trees. I like to see more trees. So, or the other board members have to agree to waive that request, which again, I'll go back around through and ask people what their thoughts are. But that's sort of like, yeah.
If I may, I would like to put the retaining wall at least on the plan and the 2 trees on the side. I'd favor that.
4 trees in this case.
4 trees on the side.
4 shade trees, not arborvitaes.
Yeah.
That's a lot on that side.
Yeah.
I have been out there, and that's asking a
Yeah.
lot for that space. So,
It was my understanding 2, maybe I was wrong.
yes, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Because we would have to replace, because it would be the 2 that are required already, and then the 2 that you would have to replace because you'd be taking 2 down.
So I'm open to 2 trees on the right side because I don't think I could fit more.
So
Oh, you have to turn you have to put the,
I'm feeling more of a continuance vibe here, is what I'm getting, I guess.
yes, I think that's right. Well, let me ask other folks their thoughts before we get into it. I will just, for the record, because I messed up saying it. So I'm happy to, not happy. I would like to, my preference would be to keep 1A, to keep 1C, and to change 1D to get rid of the rent fenestration pattern on the 2 stories, but keep something that says something to the extent of replicate a gable without increasing the pitch. So you don't need a full gable peak, like something that at least adds some design element to it without doing anything that increases the pitch. I would like to keep E, understanding now that that's the side small windows, that I misspoke the last time. And I myself don't care about F. Other board members disagree. And so I think maybe some language, and I'll go back to Board Member Turcono, about something that either says something like keep the front door, or if it can't because of compliance or other issues, that it looks similar in nature to the historic door in some form or another, and leave that up. So that seems to be people's preference. Okay, so I'm going to go back through. I apologize for my mistake. Board Member Bromoff, your thoughts on the trees for 1A?
Oh, boy, I'll go along with whatever the board's preference is. I'm so confused as to all of the changes we discussed back and forth, different members, that I would prefer a continuance, or if all of the board is happy with what we've come up with, and I'm not sure what we've come up with, I'll go with that too. I think maybe that might be a cop-out, but I think we've had a lot of compromise and a lot of discussion. So I'd like to move it forward either to a continuance, or if the rest of the board is happy with what we discussed and the petitioner is clear on what we've determined he's going to do, then I'm good with that too.
Okay, Board Member Cortez.
Through the chair, it seems to me that now the main area to work out is on 1A. The other ones seems to me, based on the comments that we have for the rest of the board, we pretty much know what we'd like to have, which I was looking at you and reading your movement, and that you are amenable to follow C and regarding ND, regarding F, there is comments like we kind of either way. So and I have clear view that the city staff also have a clear understanding on what they would like to work with you. So therefore, I think there is a need. Probably the best for you is continuance, so you can work those concessions and agreements with the cities that we made it. It's going to make it much easier for us. So when you come back.
Board Member Moremi.
Sorry, there was a delay. I don't have any comments.
Okay. Board Member Trocono, did I summarize your thoughts accurately?
For which one, A or F?
Either one.
All right, F, you're right, F, I'm flexible, it's not a big deal, I understand it, so I'm flexible. A, that's fine. Is he going to maintain the 24-inch trees and the 12-inch trees on both southwestern and southeastern corner?
That's the question. He's proposing not to cut 1A, and I would say there's some desire for board members to keep it. So I guess that's really the question. What's
and what does the chair say?
I would like to keep it, and that would put the applicant in a bind based on what he would like. So he would either need to continue it, or we would vote on it accordingly.
What about I put one in the front? So I take the two out.
I support that. So I'm good.
Thank you very much. Yes, the applicant, go ahead.
Yeah, so I said, what if I put one in the front, kind of on the side here, and then two in the back, so it's all on the right side?
Through the chair, there's a tree that's already proposed on the front right.
Oh, okay, so we'll leave that, and then put two in over here. Two over here, we'll put the two over here. So that's three.
So through the chair, there are two trees that are required on the right-hand side in the back unless the board waives that requirement. So they'll need to revise the plans to reflect two trees on the back right. The front tree is one of our standard requirements. Every 50 feet, we look for a tree. On the left-hand side, they're also required to provide two trees. You're waiving that through the requirements under the special permit, and our suggestion was that they be required to keep the two trees that are on that side to sort of make up for the fact that those two trees aren't being provided. They keep the one in the back, that one counts, and the other one we sort of waive because the one in the front essentially covers that. that was the recommendation from staff. If you want to enable elimination of any of those, it's your discretion. It just, your vote needs to be reflective of what you're allowing. So the question becomes, which trees are you requiring? And I think maybe if you want to do this now, then I would say you just need to be clear about what it is you want, and we're going to forget about what the conditions say and rework it, because I'm lost too. And if I'm the one writing this and enforcing this, and making sure that we get the plans over to inspectional services that look like what we think you wanted, and I'm lost, then I guess I'm just suggesting that I think it's most beneficial to continue. I think I have an understanding of what you all want, but I think we need to make adjustments, and I'm just worried truly that we end up on a different page, and then the applicant's back for an amendment, and that doesn't save anybody time at the end.
Okay, so let's go through the things that we've checked off that we've agreed to, and then we can go back. Okay, so it seems that the board is in agreement with C staying. It seems that the board is in agreement with amending D to not require windows that are front facing.
But you want the gable.
Or change it to have language that has some facsimile so that they don't create a higher pitch, but some, so if they don't, not a full gable, but something, just 1 second, and then I'll let you go in a second. To keep E, the side windows, the second floor, which the applicant agreed to, but not the same rhythm. So not to have, because currently it's, they have 4 windows proposed. We're asking them to add, they have 2 windows per floor proposed, and we're asking them to add a third. But currently there's, I think, 4 windows. So it's not the exact same as currently conditions, if I recall correctly. So it's a compromise again. It's to have the 2 that are currently, that they're proposing per floor, plus the 1 small one that sort of looks like the rest of the city. So that would be sort of amending to some extent E. So currently, currently there's those 3, and we're saying keep those small windows, but not, that they only are proposing 2 on that side, and I think we've all agreed that's fine.
Through the chair, I think at this point, our comment for that northern elevation that we were just looking at from the existing conditions is to simply forget all of the prior comment, except the fact that we want the small windows.
Yes.
Okay, so 3 small windows, keeping ideally the existing, but they should be the same size in terms of the opening.
Yes.
That's the only change we're looking for on the northern elevation.
That's correct, I believe.
Okay, and then eastern elevation, we said keeping the gable, you want to keep the gable, you want to keep the pitch of the gable.
No, keep the current pitch that they propose, not.
Keep the current pitch, no gable. You don't want to have them add a window in that.
I would like to keep the look of the front, so everything that is now is just going to extend another story.
So look the same, but not need.
So I think you're striking that then.
Okay.
If you don't, because the condition's requiring the small window
Right.
on the left side and the gable. So if you don't want either of those, then I think you're striking.
Okay, yep, then striking that. Okay, and then F, to amend it to say, keep the door as is, or use the same door unless it needs to be changed because of ADA compliance or because the door is no longer usable. And if they do need to replace it, that it looks like or has a feel to the historic door. So even if it's fiberglass, that it has some feel of an older door. So that's the things we've agreed to. Okay, so to the applicant, so to be clear, the current way our rules are that the front would have to already, you don't get credit for it, you don't get to add it because that's already required. We require trees every 50 feet that are shade trees. So the way that the city has tried to say okay, we understand that some trees are gonna come down, so we wanna keep 2 trees on the left-hand side here to keep the regulations in as stated, and the 2 trees on the right side, those are already required, as is the one in the front. So if you would like to lose the 2 trees on the left-hand side, you need to find space for 2 new shade trees someplace else, currently as the rules have stated. And if you don't want that, if you don't want to meet the 2 required, My suggestion would be to continue so that you can work that out with the city, and the city can figure out what will work for you and what will work for what we would like from our perspective, which is shade trees on this property. Does that add does that meet what everybody else says? Yeah, okay, so, is that clear?
So a total of 4 trees will be back here?
Yes,
Okay, 1 in the front and 4 in the back?
and the side, yeah,
Okay.
on the right-hand side.
So I don't see why I can't put 1 or 2 back here. So 1 or 2 here and 1 or 2 here.
Does that work for the city?
Through the chair, that's fine.
Okay. If everyone can agree to that, then we can strike 1A, but have the recommendations reflect this conversation.
Yeah, so we'll have requirement for 2 shade trees on the right and 2 in the rear.
Okay. And additionally, just that the retaining wall show up on the plans. That gets.
Agreement with that.
Okay.
Just for the record, I think it would be helpful if the chair could state that this is not your preference in terms of how to negotiate
Yes.
conditions, because I
This
don't.
is for sure not our preference. We do not like to design in meetings. It is a nightmare for all of these reasons. But I think people clearly would like to move this along. So in the future, just,
My civil engineer's usually here, but he got delayed. His daughter is relocating for school, so his flight got delayed. That's why he's not here. So he would have been able to answer.
answer some of these questions.
Well, and also just like you had multiple specific concerns about the conditions. And so that would have been better to have worked out with city staff well in advance prior to coming here. And then everyone learning all of these problems at the same time during the meeting is not conducive to producing an outcome that happens quickly or that is satisfactory to the staff or this board or the applicant. So it's better to, instead of just dropping these on us when you get here, better to just, if you don't have time because it's too close to the meeting, postpone it instead of just coming here and then saying that. That's just my concern.
Yes, I think that's right. That's a good application. I will suggest that you let us vote and not worry about it, but I would say I agree. Okay. Is there a motion to close?
I'd like to make a motion to close on 25 Wabash Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, wait, before we close, is, the people online, do you have any last statements before we vote on this? So you're hearing none, I'm going to go to a vote. On the motion to close, Board Member Abramoff.
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Torcono?
Yes.
Board Member Barnhagen?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Is there a motion on 25 Wabash Avenue?
I'd like to make a motion on 25 Wabash Avenue for approval of variance for relief of 750 square feet from the 7,000 square foot minimum lot area requirement for a 3-family dwelling use in an RG5 zone, for approval of a variance for relief of 10 feet from the 60-foot minimum frontage requirement for a multifamily high-rise dwelling use in an RG5 zone, for approval of a variance for relief of 3.08 feet from the 8-foot minimum side yard setback requirement for a multifamily high-rise dwelling use in an RG5 zone, for approval of a variance for relief of the maximum compact parking space requirements, for approval of a special permit to modify the parking dimensional layout and/or landscaping requirements, loading requirements, and/or the number of required parking spaces, with the conditions of approval set out in pages 4 and 5 of the staff memo, as significantly amended and reflective of the comments during this public hearing, with the waiver as requested by the applicant.
And through the chair, did you want to include the DTM comments from their letter dated today? And just to reflect them for the record, we're talking about modification to condition A, striking condition D, adding condition H, and modifying condition F.
I think that's correct.
Yes, and adding the DTM conditions in the conditions as updated as reflected by Ms. Smith.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
On the motion, Board Member Abramoff. Board Member Abramoff?
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Torcono?
Yes.
Board Member Barnhagen?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. If the folks in the, who are here in the public would like to further discuss this with the city, you should get the card of the planning division for any follow-up that you would like. Okay, next up is number 5, 125 Grandview Avenue. If the applicant could please come forward. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Board. My name is Brandon Halig. I'm the owner of 125 Grandview Ave. Thank you again for hearing me today. So just to recap, in our last meeting, I had came here requesting 2 variances. I'm no longer requesting those variances. So there was a misunderstanding with DPW. So when I had came, I requested 2 variances. One was allowing an exception to a 40% curb cut rule. And then secondly was to allow a quote-unquote third curb cut, which was really just my neighbor's extruding driveway. So we can go to the next slide. Sorry. Yeah, so this is the misunderstanding. So when I had applied with DPW to get the second driveway permitted, they had told me that if I try to propose, a 22-foot driveway, and I have an existing 22-foot driveway, then I was going to exceed a 40% rule, even though I told them it was either curb cuts, right? Then they came back and told me that after the last meeting, I clarified with them the situation. So they had assumed that the 22-foot wide driveways I was proposing was 22-foot wide driveways, not just a 22-foot wide curb cut. So if it was, I would violate this rule, which was a 40% impervious surface area in the frontage or in the front yard. So now that's cleared up. I'm not applying for any variances related to the driveway. Had I had this misunderstanding not been here in the first place, I would not have applied for any variances. I would have followed the full code of making sure, we can go to the next slide, of the 22-foot principal driveway. And I wish I don't have to, but I'm also going to close up my neighbor's extrusion, which is a few feet there. I wish I didn't have to, but I would totally will to meet the requirements. So on to the next slide. So even though those 2 variances I'm no longer applying for, so yeah, this is just the now by right plan, 2 22-foot driveway curb cuts to 2 different driveways. And then I'm going to be closing up my neighbor's extrusion. So we can go to the next slide. So I have to come back because there was unfortunately another setback problem that was found while applying for the last special permit. So this was not caught by DPW a year and 9 months ago when I installed the first driveway. It was not caught again by DPW when I was applying for the second driveway. It was only caught while trying to apply for a variance that I'm no longer even applying for. So the problem is that my understanding is, you see in this little red outline, so while a driveway, quote-unquote, driveway may sit 3 feet from a property line, what happens is when a driveway exceeds 22 feet, it now becomes a parking area, and then a parking area has to be a 5-foot setback. So this was just a huge oversight. Nobody along the lines had ever caught, not the asphalt company, not DPW. It was only ever caught when applying for this permit. And so now I'm here to leave that driveway area the way it is so I can continue along with my ADU project to get its own driveway for the ADU. So we can go on to the next slide. So I just want to say, in favor of keeping it the way it is, I think this is just such a unique orientation for the lot. The neighbor's driveway exists in front of my property. If I really could move it from 3 feet to 5 feet, I would, but due to the unique orientation of the property lines, like, their driveway is in front of my lot, so their driveway is on the property line. And that's common for the neighborhood character. People put, like, every other house on the neighborhood has their driveway on the property line. Like, that's just how historically it was. So it's not uncommon. I mean, I feel like this is a favor going to 3 feet and not having it on the line. But it's just such a unique situation. I don't think it's unreasonable to keep it the way it is at the 3-foot mark instead of 5 foot. Because, like, if it wasn't a 22-foot driveway wide, then it would be able to be 3 feet. So it doesn't affect my neighbor. He's not unburdened. As you can see, he parks cars 1 foot from my house. I don't mind. We get along. You can go to the next slide. This is just a sky view if you want to take a look at how it looks. It's a 3-car parking lot. If we really were to try to reduce it from like 3 feet from 5 feet to 3 feet, you're going to reduce the area the cars can park on, and then, my Prius is going to be halfway on the grass. I don't think that is very reasonable for the neighborhood character. And I go into these details a bit more in the next slides. Next slide, please. So my goal is just I want to be able to finish up my ADU driveway. I don't think the cost to fix this is worth it, nor do I think it's really creating a burden to my neighbor. You can just go to the next slide. I think I've already talked about everything that I need to talk about. So I'm happy to answer and discuss. Oh yeah, these are from like the last time when I show from outside of the door. So that's a straight line. I'm happy to answer any more questions. It's just such a little sliver that only exists on the back, right in front of the door. It's more like a pathway, just for accessibility and walking around.
So I will, have you seen what the city staff's recommendation for?
The 18-foot
Yes.
entrance. Yes, so I did see that. So if we go back a few slides, so I understand that in the last meeting, there was a discussion about parking on the street, right? So I disagree with the comments that were made. I know that the one driveway that was put in, it took away 1 parking spot for that driveway entrance, and then for the new ADU, it's going to take 1 more street parking spot. And I know that's, I feel like the investment I created, though, even though it took 1 spot away from the street, it added 3 more parking spots off the street. So overall, we're having less street parking and we're going to have more street parking spaces. I don't know what the previous residents did. I assume they could have had 2 or 3 cars on the street, but I feel like my investment has now allowed more street parking. So I understand with the 18-foot recommendation, I don't think it's going to create any more street parking. My frontage is about 80 feet, just over 80 feet, maybe like 84. So we have 2 22-foot wide curb cuts. And then you see in front of both of the trees, those are about 20 feet. That's just enough space to have reasonable car parking space. If we added 4 feet to either side, it's not like, it's going to be 24 feet. You can't fit 2 cars on either side. So I don't think it's worth going from 22 to 18 feet, and the reason is that I'm trying to make backing out of the super windy driveway onto a one-way street safer. People are going to park their cars right up against that tree. People, when you try to back out of this windy driveway, you got to go north, and then you can go south. So going from 22 to 18 just seems like unnecessary if the goal is to provide more parking. I'm just trying to make sure that backing out of this driveway is safer on the one-way street.
Okay, so you would, just to clarify for the board, you would like the board to consider striking 1A from the recommendations?
Yes, I would, please.
Okay. City staff.
Sure, through the chair. I'm not going to recap all the history on the item, but just a very quick reminder that there was a permit applied for from DPW, and the plans that were submitted were not the plans. Basically, what was built was not consistent with the plans that were submitted. Regardless, that department doesn't enforce zoning compliance. They're just there to really approve the authorization to access the public way. So that's really the purpose of that, and they provide, when they can, a cursory analysis related to this to flag and hopefully prevent these kinds of issues. We're working on a more comprehensive solution for this issue as a community, but for now, that is the situation. So just want to clarify in that regard. We have just proposed a condition that responded to what we believe the board's feedback as well as the resident feedback was at the last meeting, which was there's a concern about on-street parking. The board was in favor of not having a by right option move forward and instead finding a way to kind of compromise. In speaking with the Department of Transportation and Mobility, we prevent parking within 5 feet of a curb cut. So these new curb cuts not only have removed the parking where the actual curb width is, but anything within 5 feet of that, right? From an enforcement perspective, technically anything within that is subject to ticketing. So typically, an on-street parking space, cars are 15 to 18 feet in length, typically. Ideally, in a street context, we like to see more than that. However, what you have here in terms of the width, our condition essentially allows for basically a 17 and a half-ish foot long car to park in compliance with the 5-foot requirement from curb to curb. So basically, what you're seeing us suggest is a expansion of the curbing that's not shown here, right? So that the southern curb cut is narrower on the north side and the northern curb cut is narrower on the south, narrowed, extending the curb on the south side. So we have between those two driveways, a on-street parking space that we're gaining by virtue of what is currently shown here and what we are conditioning to the point where one car could park in that location in compliance with the city's parking requirements in terms of the ordinance. Keep in mind, this is the snow ban side of the street, so during a snow ban, cars can still park here, as opposed to the other side of the street, which cars cannot park on, which I think is why part of the resident interest was around this particular side of the street. So our comment is basically make those adjustments to preserve one on-street parking space along the entire, essentially, frontage of the property here, to make sure that that can still happen. I don't think I need to say anything more than that, but I'm more than happy to clarify, but we think that's essentially the minimum to get a legal space in front of there. Otherwise, DTM may be out there ticketing.
Okay, is anybody, are either of you here for this item? Is anybody online? If you are online, you can use the raise your hand feature or press *9. Okay, no one's here. I will admit, I'm actually of two minds about this. I sort of generally like when we're clear with people from the get-go, and I sort of don't. I think a lot about like how regular folks who are intersecting with our regulations can like do the things in such a way that are affordable, because I'm a regular homeowner and it's actually really affordable to come. I mean, it's really expensive to come here, to fill out the forms, to pay the fines, to do all those things, that's actually a burden. And I'm always cognizant that we waive a lot of variances for really large projects and then put a lot of burden on smaller people who don't have the ability to have lawyers and other people here. So I'm always thinking about that when we're sort of have people, and I've been by the ADUs actually. I think it'll be very nice. So I like that we're building a nice ADU on this property. I think the city needs it. That being said, 22 feet is a really large curb cut. And if you did do the thing the city wanted, ironically, you wouldn't need to change your curb cut. And so I'm of two minds, simply because the applicant could reduce the size and not, and the city doesn't get its, like, the parking back. Right, you could just take the sliver of 2 feet from there and make it sort of tighter in your parking area, and we don't get anything that we want. And I think the city is right to want to try to figure out a way to get a spot back, even as you did, I think, rightly say that you've sort of taken some parking that might be on the street off the street. I think there's an interest in wanting to have that 4 feet back on either side. So I don't know. I'm of two minds about this. I'm sort of curious where the board is on this. I think the applicant is making a fair request to cut 1A, and I think the city is right to ask for it. I think both are. I think I sort of see both sides of that myself, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm curious what other people thought. Board Member Abramoff.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm with the city on this. I think preserving a spot on the street is important, and it adds a little bit more sensitivity to the neighbors. So I prefer, keep 1A.
Okay, and otherwise, sorry, to be clear, I'm a vote yes. Otherwise, I think it's fine. Board Member Cortez.
Through the chair. First of all, you know, I recognize and give you credit for changing and withdrawing some of the variances requests here and there because you had a misunderstanding on what that means and so forth. So that gets us closer to us to what we actually want, what we really want to do, and what can approve. Based on that, I think that the main point in here that it needs to be in place is the recommendation 1A. And yes, I agree that the curb cut is, the way you propose it is too wide. You need to, you know, recognize what makes sense and how can you move the project without any much issues. By doing that, by reducing the curb cut, it preserves one parking space, which, you know, parking space it means a lot, you know, to your people there. So I'm in favor of maintaining A. I think it's if it was you.
Okay, Board Member Moremi?
I have no additional comments, and I agree with the previous comments as well.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Torcono?
No comment.
Okay, Board Member Barthagen?
Through the chair, I mean, if I had a vote, I guess I would vote to keep 1A, I guess, because I think it's up to the applicant. Like, if you don't want to fix the driveway, which is not compliant, then you compromises, in exchange for that, you reduce your curb cut. If you don't want to reduce your curb cut, just fix your driveway. So for me, it's like, well, we're presenting the choice to you by having this condition in here. If you want to fix your driveway, then you don't have to ask us for anything, and you can keep your 22-foot curb cut, and that's fine. You have that by right. So I guess in exchange for coming to the board and asking to keep a non-compliant parking area, we're just asking for this in return, and we get a valuable parking spot on the street back. So that, again, I'm not voting on this, but if I were voting, that's how I would vote.
We value your input regardless of your ability to vote on it. So he has laid out clearly the stakes. I guess I'm more sympathetic, but other folks want you to do it, so it's up to you. What do you want to do?
So I think I need to make a clarification. So I was not understanding of this 5-foot rule that was brought up to why the logic there was a 4-foot thing. So I would like to say now, like, people do park where those two trees are. Like, that's going to be real parking space. People are going to park there. They're not going to get ticketed. That's how this street's going to be for sure. So, like, closing those curb cuts by the 4 feet isn't actually going to make the parking spaces. There's 2 parking spaces, right? There's going to be 2 parking spaces right there, right now. And then in the future, there's going to still be 2 more parking spaces right there. So keeping it at 22 feet, like the plan currently says, it's still going to allow those 2 parking spaces right there. Reducing it to 18 feet, yes, the 2 parking spaces are going to be there. But it doesn't change what this proposed plan is offering, which does already include the 2 parking spaces. So I think it's worth noting the 2 squiggly lines. It's like, yes, curb cut, but this is like a flared, I would call it. So like it's flared in to make sure backing in and out is safer, so you don't accidentally bump into the curb and pop a tire. Like, that is how the flaredness works. So people park there on both of the trees right now. Even though there's less curbage, people still do park there. So, and I don't mind that. Like, I'm not against people parking there. Like, they do it. I just want to make sure the clarification stands that by going from 22 to 18, it's not creating more parking spaces, because the 2 parking spaces will already be there. And I hope that clarification comes off.
This is what I will say. I may be sympathetic to that, but you do not have the votes for that.
Okay.
So I guess I would say you sort of have a choice. You could, I think the choice is either reduce the flare to 18 feet or reduce the size of the driveway from to get the 5 feet on the side, which would make you in compliance and therefore would not need actually to be before us at all. And so we would just pull the request for a special permit. So those are the things that you have votes for currently, are either for you to decide, you know what, I'm gonna pull back the 2 feet in the parking, on the driveway, on one of my 22 feet, and not change the 22 feet to 18 feet, or we will vote on it, we'll vote almost definitely yes, and then you will have the recommendation, you'll have to change your curb cut from 22 to 18, but I guess that's really your decision.
Okay. Yeah, before coming here, I didn't understand the 5-foot rule. I mean, I knew that when I had proposed this plan that there was going to be 2 parking spaces, so that's something I am going to have to think about.
We can continue it if you'd like to think about it and come back and give us an answer.
I mean, I guess it makes more sense to accept it with the recommendation, and then go through. Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay, like, we can continue it if you would like some more time. I don't want you to feel pressure.
Yeah.
I want you to make a decision that feels right for your project.
I guess
the
I'm-
city's a big thing, and so I want
Yeah.
to make sure you feel like, I don't want you to feel like we're pushing something, but it's clear from the votes that these are your 2 choices.
I think it's because I didn't get the clarification across
Yeah, no worries.
prior that even with going from 18 to 22, like, there's still going to be 2 parking spaces, which is something I really wanted to clarify prior.
Okay.
So,
I still think you will not have the votes
Okay.
to cut 1A. I think the board would like you to either keep 1A, and we'll vote yes on, I can't speak for everybody, but that's the sense I get of the board, is that we'll vote to approve the as-is, and you'll have to reduce it to 18 feet. Or if you would like to keep your 22 feet, you will have to change your driveway to lose 2 feet, to give it the 5 feet from the thing. And if you do not want to make that decision in this very moment, we can continue it. If you would like us to vote, we can vote.
if I didn't make the decision, I'd have come back, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you could decide to pull it, and we would vote to pull it.
All right. If I went to a vote and it was denied, I'd have to just make a change to the existing parking area.
That's correct.
Okay. And that change, is a car allowed to park on the grass? So like partially on the grass?
I mean, no, you're not allowed to park on the grass in the city of Worcester.
Okay.
I think, judge accordingly.
Okay. All right, I'll take it to the board, I guess.
You'll have us vote, we're going to keep 1A, which is the 22 feet to 18 feet.
To keep, yeah, okay.
Do you understand?
Through the chair, just to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah.
The board, it seems clear that the board has a particular stance on this. My suggestion would be that you just vote to authorize the special permit with the conditions you think. The applicant wants to appeal it, hire counsel to go through that process, they are welcome to. Second to that, their by right option remains preserved. So this just moves this along, and the applicant
Okay.
can make the
That's very
decision.
clear. I apologize,
We are
Michelle.
happy to continue to discuss this with them if it's not clear. I thought my staff had, so this is the first time we're understanding that there's a disconnect, so we're happy to talk further about
Okay.
this.
That's helpful.
And please feel free to come directly to our office rather than speaking to our colleagues at DPW, because that'll be more efficient than kind of going through those other colleagues.
So to clarify, like, if we vote with 1A and we approve you, and you don't want to do that, you can always change the driveway, even though you have an accepted permit.
I got you, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. You are saying that more clearly than I am. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we're going to vote. You should talk to the planning division. They will do a better job than I'm currently doing.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, thank you. On the motion to close, is there a motion to close? I apologize.
Yes, there is a motion to close. I'd like to make a motion to close on 125 Grandview Avenue.
Can somebody make that on his behalf?
Second?
No, somebody needs to move it. Board Member Bromoff, can you move it?
Oh, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to close, Board Member Bromoff,
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Maremi?
Yes.
Board Member Turcono?
Yes.
My vote's yes. Is there a motion on, on 125 Grandview Avenue?
Actually, before we get to the motion, has he requested the waivers?
Oh, yeah, you need to request the waivers.
But now, do we need to reopen that?
We do, okay.
Through the chair, I want to say that he previously requested the waivers when we were discussing at the
Requested
last
board meeting.
hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good, right.
You should request them again, but same as last time?
Okay, I'm sorry, the waivers?
It
Yes,
means you
it means you
don't-
won't have to provide information to us. You would definitely want to provide, you would definitely want to ask for them.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
so then I'd like to make a motion for 125 Grandview Avenue for approval of a special permit to modify parking dimensional layout and/or landscaping requirements, loading requirements, and/or the number of required parking spaces, subject to the conditions of approval set forth on page 4 of 8 of the staff memo, and the waivers as previously requested by the applicant.
Is
So
there,
moved.
great, is there a second?
I second the motion.
On the motion, Board Member Abramoff,
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Maremi?
Yes.
Board Member Turcono?
Yes.
My vote's yes. Please take one of their cards and talk to them.
right,
And I
thank you.
apologize for making that longer than it needed to be. All right, how are you all doing? Are you okay to move forward with the last one? Okay. Next up is 40 Sherbrooke Avenue.
Good evening. I'm Rafael Hernandez, Acropolis Design, Worcester resident. We're requesting a variance of 5 feet from the minimum 65-foot required both for the existing lot and the proposed lot at 40 Shellbrook. The project involves dividing the property into 2 lots to construct a new energy-efficient single-family house on one level for the current owners of the main house on the property, Mr. and Mrs. Grilla. Mark Grilla is here. And overall, they want to subdivide this lot and build a house with an ADU to retire and either sell or rent out the current house. And they want one level of living, an ADU that they can rent to family or rent out to someone that needs a home. And the house is a traditional style with lap siding, shingles, double hung windows, front porch, composite decking, carriage style doors, shingled roof, and multiple roof lines. He's a business owner in the city. He wants to stay in the city. He's a retired firefighter. Regarding the conditions, we accept A, C, and D. However, we respectfully decline B. Anna does not have any sidewalks on either side, and we are going to put a walkway from Shellbrook to the front door that would be parallel with the sidewalk, so it would create confusion, in my opinion. And finally, we request the waiver for the item 1, the percentage of lot covered area from the principal dwelling. Thank you for your consideration.
I have a quick question, which is why isn't the frontage just on Anna Street?
The frontage is on Anna Street to maintain the front and rear setback requirements so that we only need relief for the frontage.
Okay, so otherwise you would need more relief.
Correct.
Missing.
We discussed this at length with the staff
Okay,
multiple times.
it's okay, I'm sorry. you didn't.
Oh, no, sorry.
Because I was curious.
So yeah, so we tried different things, adjusting the frontage, adjusting the lot lines, angling the lot lines, and we felt that this has the least amount of relief required for the type of project, because if not, you would need front setback, rear setback, and
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Staff, city staff, please.
Through the chair, this is Amy Beth Lath for the Planning Division. This is 40 Sherbrooke Avenue, and this parcel is in an RL7 zone. Presently on the property is a single-family detached dwelling and a detached garage. The applicant seeks to divide the property, raise the detached garage, and relocate the driveway access, construct a single-family dwelling on the newly created lot, and conduct the associated site improvements. The relief that the applicant is seeking is a variance for relief of 5 feet from the 65-foot minimum frontage requirement for a single-family detached dwelling in an RL7 zone for both the existing and the proposed lot. So 2 variances, a variance of 5 feet for each lot. As stated, the staff had requested for the applicant to draw the lot line such that the existing dwelling, Lot 1, would be on a zoning compliant lot, would not need any relief whatsoever from this board, and then the only relief needed would be for the proposed new lot, and that would be in regards to the front and rear yard setbacks for the proposed dwelling, and that would be using Anna Street as the frontage for this project. That alternative would only require an A&R, an approval not required, process for the parcels to be divided. Instead, once this, and if and when this approval is given, the applicant would, next step would be a definitive frontage subdivision process through the planning board. So that's the piece that we're speaking about now. Also, the applicant can divide this property into 2 lots and then construct an ADU on each lot, which would provide a total of 4 units on these 2 lots. And as described, the applicant is proposing an ADU with this new construction, so that is part of the proposal. So for our comments and questions, we are really still curious as to why the applicant cannot use Anna Street as the frontage and create the zoning compliant lot. As stated, the applicant is creating a pedestrian path from Sherbrooke Avenue to the facade of the dwelling facing Anna Street, because as required by the ordinance, you need to have meaningful access from your frontage to the parcel. So that walkway is providing the meaningful access to the dwelling. Sorry, managing both things at the same time. We also had comments around the architecture on the front, asking for more interest around the gable, and then making the fenestration above the garage more symmetrical. And then we are asking for sidewalks on the Anna Street facade, because Sherbrooke Ave is a public way with established sidewalks currently. We also offered the applicant to reorient the dwelling to face Sherbrooke Ave, in which case there would be sidewalks that would access the face of the dwelling. So since that was not, the dwelling is going to face Anna Street, then we feel like there should be sidewalk access in front of the dwelling. That, I think, kind of sums up everything for us. I just want to, one more time. Yep, I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, well, there's no one here in person, so if you are online and would like to speak on 40 Sherbrooke Avenue, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9. Is there anybody there? Okay. I also don't quite understand, but I don't feel strongly about it. I'm happy to move it forward as is. I am, for those reasons, not inclined to waive 1B, but I am happy to vote yes otherwise. Board Member Abramoff.
Yeah, the relief they're looking is fairly minimal, and think it looks like a good project. I agree with you on 1B. I can support this with that. That's it.
Thank you. Board Member Cortez?
Through the chair, I think that this project is kind of straightforward with minor differences in here regarding recommendation 1B, which I'm with you, Mr. Chairman. Other than that, I have no further comments.
Okay. Board Member Moremi?
No additional comments.
Okay. Board Member Torcono?
No comment.
Board Member Bardhagen?
Yeah, I don't have any additional comments. I mean, again, like, I just agree with I agree with every other comments that's been made so far. I don't think there's a reason not to move this forward.
Okay. With that being said, I will take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to close, Board Member Abramov?
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Moremi?
Yes.
Board Member Torcono?
Yes.
My vote's yes. Is there a motion on 40 Sherbrooke Avenue?
I'd like to make a motion for 40 Sherbrooke Avenue for approval of a variance on the existing lot for relief of 5 foot from the 65-foot minimum frontage requirement for a single-family detached dwelling in an RL7 zone, and approval of a variance on the proposed lot for relief of 5 feet from the 65-foot minimum frontage requirement for a single-family detached dwelling in an RL7 zone, subject to the conditions of approval set forth on page 3 of 6 of the staff memo, excluding 1B, and the waiver as requested by the applicant.
We're excluding 1B?
Oh, we are?
No.
Or we're not?
No, we're not.
Okay,
We're including 1B.
including 1B.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there so moved?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I do second the motion.
On the motion, Board Member Abramov?
My vote is yes.
Board Member Cortez?
Yes.
Board Member Moremi?
Yes.
Board Member Torcono?
Yes.
Board Member excuse me, my vote's yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I did not see any communications. There was a request from the staff to revisit, as we did last meeting, about the if we have any more feedback for the city staff about requiring deadlines and making sure that people get the information to them in a timely manner. Is there anything else, Michelle, you'd like us to add about that, or if they have any other suggestions? Is that correct?
Through the chair, we're working on making adjustments to our kind of standard operating procedures, if you will. I think they're generally in line with what we've been doing based on our team's feedback. I think, yeah, just generally whenever we can avoid the kind of negotiating at the meeting, that certainly helps reinforce when staff requests someone postpone or reinforces to get us the materials earlier, just so we can kind of avoid that. The example we had this evening, obviously, those comments were unchanged from more than 3 weeks ago. So, there was ample opportunity and multiple requests to discuss, and obviously led to a lengthy discussion, which sometimes is unavoidable because, we have the indications that we have. So I think that's really that. The one update, I did talk to the law department related to the question on motions. They haven't had a chance to explore it. We did some quick poking around, and unfortunately the language in kind of Robert's Rules of Order don't really address alternate members, which is I know, right, every guide and nuance. So the law department's advice was consistent with what I had told you at the previous meeting, which is in an abundance of caution. Basically, if all other members are there and voting, that the alternate is essentially substituting in for someone, so really shouldn't be, even if it were feeling like a ministerial act, they shouldn't be substituting in unless someone is unable to vote on that, whether it's a recusal, absence, or otherwise. So basically, continue doing what you've been doing with a suggested motion, and then someone's voting to make that motion and second that motion. And if we get a more formal opinion or response from them subsequent to this, I'll happily update you, but that was sort of the guidance that they gave me the nod on today, so.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is just a reminder that if you miss a meeting and you watch video, you do have to fill out the form that says you watched the video, and it would make literally no sense to go to the trouble of watching the YouTube video and then not filling out the form because you already did the hard part, which is watching the video. And when I miss, I watch the whole video, and it's really, I will tell you, boring to not be a part of it, but watch it. So you really are going through the hard part by watching it and not doing anything. So fill out the form. Okay, we don't have minutes, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. We're adjourned.
Everybody have a safe and happy 4th.
Thank
Them
you.
too. Happy
You too.
4th.
Bye.
Bye.